At 6:15 a.m. on January 16, 1945, Senior Sergeant Roza Georgiyevna Shanina crouched in a snow-filled trench outside the East Prussian town of Eidkunen, her breath forming white clouds in the -20-degree cold. She was 20 years old, 9 months in combat, 59 confirmed kills, 0 fear left. Her Mosin Nagant 1891-30 rifle, with its 3.5 XPU scope, lay across her knees, the wood worn smooth from months of use. She pulled out her forbidden diary, hands shaking from cold, not nerves, and wrote the words that would define her final days. Today, I am willing to go on the attack, even melee, no fear. Around her, the East Prussian offensive was grinding 78 soldiers down to 6. The problem was simple and deadly. The Germans were no longer retreating. They were dug in, desperate, fighting for their homeland with the fury of cornered animals. Every meter of frozen ground cost Soviet lives. The mathematics of death had changed. In October 1944, advancing into German-held territory was a calculated risk. By January 1945, advancing into East Prussia was a suicide mission. The Wehrmacht was throwing everything at the Soviet advance. Artillery barrages that lasted hours. Nebelwerfer rocket launchers that turned entire battalions into red mist. Counterattacks by SS units who took no prisoners. The Soviet High Command needed 15 kilometers of territory gained per day to maintain momentum. They were getting 3. The difference was measured in corpses. Soviet doctrine for female snipers was clear. Observe, eliminate, withdraw. Stay 400 to 800 meters back from frontline infantry. Never participate in direct assaults. Never engage in close combat. The reasoning was mathematical and cold. Female snipers took 6 months to train, required specialized equipment, and provided tactical intelligence worth 10 regular infantry soldiers. Losing a sniper in a frontal assault was wasteful. Roza Shanina had been following this doctrine for 8 months. By January 1945, she was ignoring every rule. The first partner Shanina lost wasn't killed by a sniper's bullet. Captain Igor Asayev was 34 years old, from Voronezh, a hero of the Soviet Union, commander of an assault battalion that had pushed deeper into German territory than any other unit in the 3rd Belarusian Front. October 26, 1944, near the town of Schlossberg in East Prussia. Shanina had been ordered to commit her female sniper platoon to support Asayev's assault. The German counteroffensive came at 3:47 p.m., artillery first, then infantry, then tanks. Asayev was coordinating the defense when a Panzerfaust rocket hit his position at approximately 250 meters. The explosion killed him instantly, along with 2 radio men and a medic. Shanina watched through her scope from 420 meters away. She could see the smoke, could see soldiers running toward the crater, could see them stop and turn away. She wrote in her diary that night, "Captain Asayev was killed. A good commander, fearless. The men are shaken. No emotion, no tears, just the tactical reality. The battalion had lost its commander, morale was collapsing, and tomorrow they would attack again." Shanina killed 4 Germans the next day. Felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just the immediate question, where's the next one? The pattern was establishing itself. Commanders who led from the front died. Soldiers who followed doctrine survived longer but accomplished less. Every day the calculation shifted. Was survival worth watching good people die? The second partner who died was different. Alexandra Maximovna Ekimova, Sasha. 22 years old, from a small village outside Arkhangelsk, could hit a moving target at 600 meters in crosswind. They had trained together at the Central Female Sniper Academy, graduated together in April 1944, called themselves part of the Vagrant Three, along with Kaloria Petrova. They'd worked together for 7 months. Sasha was practical, methodical, the one who double-checked distance calculations, who always found the best hide sites, who never took unnecessary risks. She followed every rule perfectly. December 12, 1944. Southeast of Schlossberg. Temperature, -18 degrees Celsius. Visibility, poor, light snow. Sasha was in position at 8:22 a.m., concealed in a destroyed farmhouse, scanning German positions 520 meters to the west. Standard defensive posture, exactly where she was supposed to be. An enemy sniper, hidden in a church steeple 680 meters northwest, had a sightline Sasha hadn't calculated. The 7.92mm Mauser round hit her in the right shoulder at 9:17 a.m. Shanina heard Sasha on the radio. "Hit! Right shoulder. I'm moving to secondary position." Calm. Professional. The second shot came as Sasha tried to relocate. Hit her in the back. The enemy sniper had calculated her likely movement path. Sasha lived for 6 hours. She bled out in a field hospital at 3:40 p.m. Shanina found the German sniper's position 2 days later. Empty. He'd already relocated. Shanina wrote nothing in her diary about Sasha's death. Not for weeks. When she finally mentioned it in January, it was one line. "Kalya and I are all that's left of our three." The emotional shutdown was complete. This was how you survived. You didn't think about Sasha's mother waiting in Arkhangelsk. You didn't think about the letter you'd have to write. You didn't think about the fact that following protocol perfectly hadn't saved her. You just loaded the next round and found the next target. But the pattern never changed. Observe, acquire target, eliminate target, die anyway. Asayev had died leading men. Sasha had died following doctrine. Both approaches ended the same way. By late December, Shanina's 184th Rifle Division had lost 43 snipers since October. The female sniper platoon had been reduced from 12 women to 3. Standard doctrine said, pull them back, retrain, redeploy in defensive positions. But the East Prussian offensive was hemorrhaging soldiers faster than reserves could replace them. Every able body was needed at the front. Shanina studied the problem like the historian she wanted to become. She kept notes, recorded patterns, calculated survival rates. The numbers told a story nobody wanted to hear. Soviet forces were advancing, yes. They were taking territory, yes. But the casualty ratio was catastrophic. In October 1944, her division had traded 1 Soviet soldier for every 2.3 German casualties. By December, it was 1-to-1. By January 1945, they were losing more people than they were killing. The Germans knew the ground. They'd had months to prepare defenses. They had interior lines of supply. Every Soviet advance was predicted. Pre-sighted, pre-targeted. The standard Soviet response was overwhelming force, artillery preparation lasting hours, Katyusha rocket barrages, tank support, infantry charges in waves. It worked, but the cost was staggering. Shanina watched battalion after battalion get chewed up taking single villages. She watched commanders throw men at fixed positions like they had infinite replacements. She saw 18-year-old conscripts arrive at the front on Monday and die on Tuesday, barely knowing which end of the rifle to point at the enemy. The doctrine for female snipers, observe from distance, provide reconnaissance, eliminate high-value targets, made sense in mobile warfare. In static defensive slugfests, it was useless. A sniper, 600 meters back, could see what was happening, but couldn't affect it. By the time tactical intelligence reached command and orders came back, the situation had changed. Units needed fire support now. not in 30 minutes. They needed someone who could identify and neutralize machine gun nests while infantry was pinned down. They needed fighters, not observers. Shanina realized the painful truth. Following doctrine was getting people killed. Her friend Kalya Petrova would say later, "Roza changed after Sasha died. She stopped caring about regulations. She said we weren't helping enough." On December 27, 1944, Shanina received the Medal for Courage for her actions during a German counteroffensive on October 26, the same attack that killed Captain Asiev. The citation noted that she displayed gallant posture and maintained composure under fire. Standard commendation language. What it didn't mention was that Shanina had violated protocol that day. She'd left her assigned position 580 meters behind the lines and moved to within 200 meters of German positions to provide covering fire for retreating Soviet infantry. She'd killed 8 Germans in 40 minutes, switching from precision sniping to rapid fire with her secondary weapon. She'd saved approximately 30 Soviet soldiers who would have been cut off and killed. The citation also didn't mention that her commanding officer had reprimanded her afterward for unnecessarily risking a valuable sniper. But those 30 soldiers were alive. They remembered. And when the next assault came, they requested that Shanina's platoon provide direct support. The mathematics were brutal and clear. One sniper violating doctrine and risking death could save 30 infantry soldiers. One sniper following doctrine perfectly, staying safe at 600 meters, could watch those 30 soldiers die. How do you solve an impossible equation? How do you honor your training while watching friends die because you're following rules? How do you reconcile being too valuable to risk with watching less valuable soldiers get slaughtered? The answer came from the infantry themselves. They didn't want snipers in the rear. They wanted snipers next to them, in the assault, identifying targets, providing immediate fire support. They wanted what doctrine said was impossible: snipers in close combat. By early January 1945, Shanina had made her decision. She applied to her battalion commander. Denied. She applied to the commander of the 184th Rifle Division. Denied. She applied to the Military Council of the Fifth Army. Denied. The Soviet policy was explicit: spare snipers from heavy battles. They were reconnaissance assets, not assault troops. On January 8, 1945, Colonel Nikolai Krylov, commander of the Fifth Army, granted Shanina permission to participate in frontline combat. The decision came with great reluctance. Krylov later told a war correspondent, "She was persistent to the point of insubordination. I knew if I denied her again, she'd go anyway. Better to have it official." This was the bureaucratic crack Shanina needed. But permission to participate in frontline combat still meant following doctrine. What Shanina was about to do next went far beyond what any regulation allowed. The innovation wasn't equipment. It wasn't a new tactic. It wasn't something you could put in a manual. It was a complete philosophical break with Soviet sniper doctrine. Shanina decided to function as both precision sniper and assault infantry. The hybrid approach was unprecedented. Snipers trained for patience, concealment, single perfect shots. Infantry trained for movement, volume of fire, close quarters combat. The skill sets were contradictory. The mindsets were incompatible. Attempting both simultaneously violated every principle of military specialization. The implementation was deceptively simple. Shanina would begin each engagement in standard sniper configuration. Concealed position, 300 to 500 meters from enemy lines. Acquire high-value targets. Eliminate threats to advancing infantry. Standard doctrine ended there. Observe, report, maintain position. Shanina's innovation was what came next. Once Soviet infantry closed to within 200 meters of enemy positions and encountered fixed defenses, Shanina would break cover. She would move forward under her own initiative, get within 100 meters, identify the specific machine gun nests or mortar positions pinning down Soviet troops, and eliminate them with rapid precision fire. Then came the truly radical part. She would continue forward with the infantry assault. Not as a sniper anymore, but as a regular soldier with exceptional marksmanship. She carried her Mosin Nagant for precision work and a PPSH-41 submachine gun for close combat. When infantry hit German trenches, Shanina went with them, switched weapons, fought in close quarters. The regulations were explicit. Snipers do not participate in melee combat. Ever. The reasoning was sound. A sniper's value was in specialized skills that took months to develop. Losing that expertise in hand-to-hand combat was tactically wasteful. But Shanina had done the calculation differently. The motherland was losing 100 regular infantry soldiers to save one sniper. That mathematics was obscene. The risk was immense. Court-martial, immediate. A sniper abandoning designated position during combat could be charged with desertion under fire, punishable by summary execution. At minimum, reduction in rank, removal from sniper duties, reassignment to a penal battalion. Her sniper certification could be revoked. The specialized rifle and equipment could be reclaimed. She'd be just another infantry soldier in an army that had infinite infantry soldiers and critically few snipers. The physical danger was even worse. Moving from 400 meters to 100 meters during an assault, while both sides are firing, was near suicide. No cover, no concealment. Crossing open ground under machine gun and artillery fire. Snipers trained to move slowly, patiently, invisibly. Running toward enemy positions with attacking infantry was the opposite of every survival instinct sniper training built. Then there was close combat. Shanina had never trained for room-to-room fighting. She'd never trained for fighting in trenches. Her weapon was a bolt-action rifle optimized for accuracy at distance. In close quarters, it was the wrong tool. The submachine gun was better, but she had minimal training on it. Going into melee combat, literal hand-to-hand fighting, was how snipers died. The implementation took 40 minutes of preparation on the night of January 16, 1945. Shanina cleaned and oiled both weapons. Checked ammunition counts. 60 rounds for the Mosin Nagant. 210 rounds for the PPSH-41, plus 4 grenades. Adjusted her equipment harness to allow faster weapon transition. The most important part wasn't physical, it was psychological. Shanina sat in the frozen darkness and thought about Sasha, thought about Aseev, thought about the 30 soldiers she'd saved by violating protocol, thought about Kalia, her last remaining friend from the Vagrant 3, who was somewhere in the same sector, following the rules, staying safe. She pulled out her diary, wrote the entry that would haunt historians decades later. I realize that I have earned honor in the Army. Well, on the front, but spread out over the whole Soviet Union, when I have not done much. No more than is expected of the Soviet people to defend the motherland. Today, I am willing to go on the attack. Even melee, no fear, my own life has grown so hateful. I'm happy to die for the motherland. How good to have this opportunity. The words were stark, clinical, emotionally flat. This wasn't a suicide note, it was a tactical assessment. Her value as an individual was less than her potential impact in direct combat. The doctrine that kept her alive was costing more lives than her death would. The calculation was simple. The conclusion was inevitable. If her commanders found out what she was planning, the response would be immediate: court-martial. But Sasha was dead. Asayev was dead. Shanina didn't want to be number 60. She wanted to be the reason Soldier 78 made it home. Her hands were steady as she closed the diary. No shaking. No doubt. She checked her rifle one more time, loaded the first round, waited for dawn. If this story is pulling you in, hit that like button right now and subscribe, because what happens next changed how female Soviet snipers fought for the rest of the war. These stories matter. The women who lived them deserve to be remembered. January 17th, 1945, 6:45 a.m. The East Prussian town of Richau, approximately 3 kilometers northwest of Ilmsdorf village. Temperature, minus 23 degrees Celsius. Soviet forces launching coordinated assault on German defensive positions. Shanina's battalion, 78 soldiers at full strength 3 weeks ago. Now, 36 soldiers. Mission: advance 2 kilometers, secure crossroads, establish defensive perimeter. Expected casualties, 40 to 60%. Shanina's assigned position, concealed in destroyed barn, 410 Andrei 20 meters behind advancing infantry, provide covering fire and reconnaissance. What Shanina actually did: followed protocol for the first 30 minutes, then broke it forever. Private Dmitry Sokolov was 19 years old, from a village outside Moscow, on the front for 6 weeks. He'd later tell a war correspondent, "I thought I was hallucinating. I saw this woman soldier running toward us, toward the German positions, not away from them. She had a rifle in one hand and a submachine gun in the other. I thought she'd lost her mind." The Soviet infantry had advanced to within 180 meters of German trenches and hit a wall. 3 MG-42 machine gun positions in a semicircle, pre-sighted, interlocking fields of fire. Soviet troops pinned down in shell craters, unable to advance or retreat. Casualties mounting. Standard response: call for artillery support. Wait 15 to 30 minutes for fire mission. Hope the shells hit the right positions. Expected additional casualties while waiting: 15 to 20 soldiers. Shanina watched through her scope, saw exactly where the machine guns were positioned, saw the slight movement in the leftmost position, calculated distance, 240 meters, could make the shot from where she was, could eliminate one gun, maybe two. The third would still pin down the infantry. They'd still take casualties, still lose soldiers. She had 3 seconds to decide. Shanina left her position at 7:18 a.m., ran forward in a crouch, using shell craters for cover. The sound was overwhelming. Machine gun fire like tearing fabric. Artillery shells screaming overhead, men shouting, mortars exploding. She'd trained for silent, patient stalking. This was chaos. Pure, overwhelming chaos. Her mind shifted. Sniper thinking shut off. Combat instinct took over. Shanina reached the forward Soviet positions at 7:21 a.m., identified the 3 machine gun positions. The geometry was clear. From where Soviet troops were pinned, they had no shot. But from 45 degrees right, at 160 meters, all 3 positions were exposed. She moved again, ignored the shouted warnings from infantry soldiers, ignored the bullets hitting dirt 3 meters to her left, reached a collapsed stone wall, dropped prone, positioned the Mosin Nagant, controlled her breathing. The first machine gun position, 168 meters. Slight crosswind from the east. Temperature and humidity affected ballistics. Shanina adjusted, aimed. The target was the gunner's head, barely visible above the trench line. She had 1 shot. If she missed, the gun position would shift, and she'd lose the opportunity. If she revealed her position without eliminating the threat, she was dead. 2, 1, fire. The 7.62 Tuck 54mm round covered 168 meters in approximately 0.4 seconds. The German gunner's head snapped back. The MG-42 went silent. Shanina didn't wait to confirm. Loaded next round. Second position, 184 meters. Different angle. She could see two soldiers. Couldn't tell which was the gunner. Aimed for center mass. Both targets went down, but the gun kept firing. Missed the gunner. Third round. Adjustment. Fire. The second MG-42 went silent. The third position had seen where she was shooting from. Rounds impacted the stone wall, spalling fragments of rock. Shanina rolled left, relocated 8 meters, repositioned. The German gunner was traversing, searching for her. She found him first. Third MG-42, silent. Elapsed time. 2 minutes, 40 seconds. 3 positions neutralized. The Soviet infantry didn't wait for orders. They advanced. Shanina grabbed the PPSH-41, rose from cover, and ran with them. This was the moment doctrine said should never happen. A sniper, in the open, running toward enemy positions with assault infantry. The noise was deafening. Katyusha rockets screamed overhead. Soviet rockets, friendly fire, hitting Soviet forward positions because communication with rear artillery was chaos. Shanina dove into a crater. Explosion 20 meters behind her through dirt and shrapnel. She'd later write in her diary, "Now I understand why the Germans are so afraid of Katyushas." The assault reached German trenches at 7:34 a.m. Hand-to-hand combat. This was territory Shanina had never trained for. Close quarters. No time to aim. Point and shoot. A German soldier came around a trench corner, rifle raised. Shanina fired the PPSH-41 from the hip. 3-round burst. The German went down. Another soldier. Another burst. The submachine gun was brutal at this range. No precision, just overwhelming firepower. She fought through the trench system alongside regular infantry. No sniper tactics, no calculated shots. Pure survival instinct. The position was secured at 7:52 a.m. Soviet casualties, 12 dead, 18 wounded. Expected casualties without Shanina's intervention, estimated 40-50 dead. Private Sokolov later told the war correspondent, "She saved us. We were dead if those machine guns stayed active. I watched her eliminate all 3 from an angle we couldn't see. Then she came forward with us, fought like regular infantry. I've never seen anything like it." Shanina's immediate physical reaction, hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline crash. She sat in the captured German trench, rifle across her knees, and couldn't stop her hands from trembling. A soldier offered her water. She drank, couldn't taste it. The artillery officer whose position she'd helped secure approached her. Major Leonid Kusmin, 41 years old, from Leningrad, artillery commander for the 144th Rifle Division. He'd watched the entire engagement through field glasses. "Senior Sergeant Shanina, you just violated approximately 17 regulations. Do you have anything to say?" Shanina looked at him, said nothing. What was there to say? She'd left her assigned position, abandoned sniper protocol, participated in direct assault, engaged in close combat. The charges practically wrote themselves. Major Kusmin studied her for a long moment, then said, 17 regulations, and approximately 30 soldiers alive who'd be dead if you'd followed them. I saw everything. I'm writing this up. Commendation, not court-martial. What you did saved an entire assault element. The relief was physical. Shanina felt her shoulders drop, realized she'd been holding tension for the past hour. She'd expected a rest, got commendation. Major Kuzmin turned to his radio operator. "Get me division command. I want this assault technique analyzed and potentially implemented. We may have just watched the future of sniper integration." That day, Shanina's unit advanced 2.3 kilometers, secured the crossroads, established defensive positions. Battalion casualties, 30%. Significantly below projected 40–60%. German casualties confirmed, 87 dead, 24 captured. Shanina's personal contribution, 11 confirmed kills, 3 from distance, 8 in close combat. By January 18th, word had spread throughout the 144th Rifle Division. The female sniper who'd charged German positions, who'd fought in trenches, who'd violated every rule and saved 30 soldiers. Infantry platoon commanders started requesting her specifically, not for reconnaissance, for direct assault support. They wanted a sniper who'd advance with them, eliminate threats in real time, fight alongside them when positions were overrun. Shanina's innovation was spreading organically, soldier to soldier. No official directive, no training manual, just frontline troops sharing what worked. By January 20th, 3 other female snipers in the 5th Army had tried similar tactics. 2 survived. The third, Nina Alexeyeva, 21 years old from Stalingrad, was killed advancing with infantry against a fortified German position. The mathematics remained brutal. This approach saved more soldiers than it cost, but the snipers taking the risk paid a terrible price. The official Soviet response was confused and contradictory. Field commanders loved it. They needed every advantage, every tactical innovation, anything that reduced casualties. The Soviet High Command hated it. Snipers were specialized assets, expensive to train, valuable for intelligence. Treating them as expendable assault troops contradicted years of doctrine. Army Commissar Ilya Ehrenburg wrote about Shanina in his Army newspaper column. Called her distinguished and honorable, noted her 54 confirmed kills, the number before the January 17th assault, said 57 times in succession thank her, thousands of Soviet lives she saved. The article was propaganda, yes, but it was based on real mathematics. Her confirmed kills represented real German soldiers who would have killed real Soviet soldiers. The magazine Spark published her photograph. Front page. The caption read, "Killed 54, captured 3 German prisoners, 2 orders of glory." The article spread across the Soviet Union. Shanina became a celebrity. She hated it. Wrote in her diary January 16th, "I'm showered with glory. The whole country reads it, all my friends, and who will know what I feel at this moment? In fact, what have I done? No more than is expected of the Soviet people to defend the motherland." The publicity created pressure. Soldiers wanted to meet her. Officers wanted her photographed with their units. War correspondents wanted interviews. Shanina just wanted to fight. She'd found something that worked, a way to actually save lives, instead of just observe deaths. The fame felt obscene. On January 17th, the day after writing that she had no fear and was willing to go on the attack, Shanina experienced what she'd later describe as the worst day of the war. The assault she participated in, the one where she eliminated 3 machine gun positions, was followed by a German counteroffensive that lasted into the night. The Soviet troops, including Shanina, advanced beyond their fire support range. No communication with rear artillery. Then the Katyusha rocket launchers, receiving bad intelligence about Soviet positions, fired into what they thought were German-held areas. They hit Soviet forward elements. Shanina and the infantry she was supporting took friendly fire from their own army's most devastating weapon system. She wrote in her diary, "We moved forward and did not report to the rear. So our Katyusha and Fiddler mortar hit us. Oh, we were ground up. The first time I experienced so much artillery fire, today for me seemed like a month. The psychological weight was crushing. She'd survived German guns. She'd survived close combat. Then her own side nearly killed her. The day after, January 18th, Shanina wrote, "For 3 hours now I've sat and cried. 12 at night. Who do I need? What good am I? Am I no help? My experience is not wanted." The fame felt hollow. The glory felt meaningless. She was sitting in a frozen trench, surrounded by dead soldiers, and people back home were reading about her heroism in magazines. The disconnect was surreal. Soldiers around her were getting killed. She was getting newspaper articles. But the front didn't care about her emotional state. The East Prussian offensive ground forward. Every day brought new assaults, new casualties, new desperate fights. Shanina kept fighting, kept using her hybrid sniper infantry approach, kept saving soldiers, kept pushing closer to German positions. The pattern was unsustainable. She knew it. Everyone knew it. The mathematics said she couldn't survive much longer. Each assault was another coin flip. Each advance into close combat was another chance to die. The Germans adapted. They knew about her now. They knew Soviet forces had snipers who advanced with infantry. They adjusted tactics, focused fire on visible soldiers moving between positions, made it harder to relocate, made it more dangerous to break cover. Shanina adapted back, moved faster, used smoke from artillery impacts for concealment, timed advances between enemy machine gun reloads. The tactical chess game accelerated, both sides learning, adjusting, trying to gain fractional advantages. By January 24th, Shanina's final diary entry, she wrote, "German fire had become so intense that Soviet troops had to shelter inside self-propelled guns. The armored vehicles, intended for mobile warfare, became improvised bunkers. Soldiers huddled inside, unable to advance or retreat, just waiting for the bombardment to end. The East Prussian offensive had become a meat grinder. Both sides locked in brutal attrition. No tactical genius could change it. No innovation could fix it. Just soldiers and shells and death." 3 days later, January 27, 1945, Shanina was supporting an infantry assault near the Richau estate. She was advancing with Soviet forces, providing direct fire support, doing exactly what she'd done successfully for 10 days. The assault was going well. German positions were falling back. Soviet troops were advancing. Standard engagement, then artillery. German artillery, precise and devastating. The shells hit Soviet forward positions at 2:35 p.m. Shanina was 15 meters from Major Kuzmin, the artillery officer who'd recommended her for commendation 10 days earlier. The blast wave threw them both. Kuzmin was severely wounded, unconscious, bleeding from multiple shrapnel wounds. Shanina was hit worse, her chest torn open by shell fragments, disemboweled, critical wounds. She should have died immediately. Instead, she stayed conscious. 2 soldiers found her minutes later. Private Sokolov, the 19-year-old she'd saved on January 17th, and another soldier whose name was never recorded. They'd later describe what they saw. Shanina was lying over Major Kuzmin's body, shielding him with her own body despite her catastrophic injuries. Her hands still gripped her rifle. Private Sokolov. "As soon as she saw us, she begged, 'Guys, dear, please shoot me, quick.' The pain must have been unimaginable, but they couldn't. They got her to field medics. The medics did everything possible. Field surgery in -20-degree weather with limited supplies. They stabilized her. got her to a field hospital. She lived through the night. Shanina died on January 28, 1945, at approximately 10:20 a.m. She was 20 years old. Final confirmed kill count, 59. Actual count, including unconfirmed kills, probably over 75. Time from writing, "I have no fear to death." 11 days. Final words, according to the nurse who attended her, regret that she had not done enough. The bureaucracy moved faster than sentiment. Within hours, casualty reports were filed. Death notification was sent to her family in Arkhangelsk. The official record noted, Senior Sergeant Shanina, Roza, in battle for the socialist motherland, in loyalty to the military oath, showing heroism and honor, was wounded and died from wounds on 28th January 1945. Buried with full military honors, East Prussia, Richau, 3 km southeast of Ilmsdorf village. The innovation she'd pioneered died with her. Soviet High Command quickly reasserted doctrine: female snipers will not participate in frontal assaults, will not engage in close combat, will maintain defensive positions at appropriate distances. The reasoning was sound. Shanina's approach worked, but was unsustainable. She'd saved dozens of soldiers, but cost the Red Army one of its most skilled snipers. The mathematics said her death was wasteful, but the soldiers she saved would remember. Private Sokolov survived the war, went home to his village outside Moscow. Every year on January 17th, he would tell anyone who'd listen about the woman sniper who saved his life, about how she ran toward German positions when everyone else was pinned down, about how she fought in trenches like regular infantry, about how she died protecting an artillery officer. Major Kuzmin survived his wounds. The field medics said Shanina's body had shielded him from shrapnel that would have killed him. He recovered, fought until the war ended, went home to Leningrad. He tried for years to get Shanina a posthumous Hero of the Soviet Union award. Was denied repeatedly. The official reasoning: she'd violated protocol, abandoned assigned position, taken unnecessary risks. Kuzmin would argue she saved 30 to 50 soldiers through her actions. Wasn't that worth recognition? The bureaucracy disagreed. The official record would show that the East Prussian offensive was successful due to overwhelming Soviet force and superior tactics. Shanina's individual contribution wasn't mentioned in division after-action reports. Her innovation, hybrid sniper infantry tactics, wasn't studied or documented. By 1946, it was forgotten. The diary survived. 3 thick notebooks filled with Shanina's handwriting, kept by war correspondent Pyotr Molchanov for 20 years in Kiev. Molchanov knew the diary was historically significant. He also knew publishing it during Stalin's era would be impossible. Too honest, too critical, too focused on individual suffering rather than collective triumph. So he waited. The notebooks sat in his apartment through the late 1940s, through the 1950s, through the post-Stalin thaw. In 1964, Soviet censorship had relaxed slightly. Molchanov approached the magazine Yunost with an abridged version of Shanina's diary. The editors were hesitant. A female sniper's diary, written in violation of military regulations, filled with personal doubts and criticism of Soviet tactics? This was controversial material, but 1964 was different from 1945. The Soviet Union was acknowledging wartime problems, discussing tactical failures, admitting casualties were higher than initially reported. Shanina's diary fit this new openness. The abridged version was published in Yunost in 1965, 20 years after her death. The response was overwhelming. Letters poured in from veterans who'd served in the East Prussian offensive, from soldiers who remembered her, from families of men she'd saved. The public learned what military historians had ignored. One of the Soviet Union's most effective snipers had died fighting in a way doctrine said was impossible. By 1970, streets in Arkhangelsk, Shangali, and Stroyevskoy were named after her. The village of Yedma, where she was born, established a